Seattle hopes to become the world's first climate-neutral city. To achieve this goal, the city must account for and reduce the carbon footprint of everything it does, from transportation to trash, buildings to office paper, e-waste to wastewater, for more than 500,000 people.
Hello, my name is Richard Conlon, President of the Seattle City Council. Here are my blog notes posted December 16th, 2010.
Moving from a carbon-based economy to a carbon-neutral economy requires a sophisticated array of strategies. There is no magic bullet, so I will draw from several different strategies to paint a picture of what I see as the 6 major options.
This strategy is the most readily accessible and builds on many technologies that we already have experience with. It involves steps like insulating buildings and improving the mileage performance of these vehicles. There's no reason we can't cut vehicle carbon emissions in half and save money too.
Improving efficiency necessarily involves design improvements, but at some point, a threshold is crossed, requiring redesign of both the component part and the system it operates in. Shifting to electric cars is an example. While the vehicle operations may dramatically reduce emissions, it is also necessary to set up charging stations and generate the needed electricity from renewable sources. The carbon benefits would be enormous.
Shifting to bicycles, walking, and public transit will greatly reduce carbon emissions, although not eliminate them, especially the embedded carbon in developing and operating the transit systems themselves. Telecommuting generates much less carbon than actually going to a workplace, and developing compact communities where employment, housing, shopping, and recreation can be accessed without the need for cars can be very effective.
Redesigning whole systems is the most challenging strategy, but this kind of rethinking will be necessary. Here's a good example. The food system generates somewhere between 15 and 20% of America's carbon emissions. Our food travels an average of 1,500 miles from farm to fork. Then there's the processing, storage, marketing, and shopping involved, plus the embedded carbon in each element of this system. Growing local foods can reduce a whole array of emissions.
To reach carbon neutrality, we will need to find as many ways as possible to take carbon out of the atmosphere. There are several very practical sequestration strategies involving healthier soils, better agricultural practices, and forest restoration programs.
The practice of carbon offsets involves buying someone else's carbon reduction in order to balance the carbon we are generating. But unless this truly involves buying actual sequestration projects, offsets cannot be part of a long-range carbon neutrality strategy.
There you have a quick summary of the tools we have available to us. Before digging into the details of how to use them, my next blog post will focus on adaptation. What we must do to address the fact that climate change is already happening. Catch my blog at conlon.seattle.gov.
With Seattle setting an example for the nation, how are other cities in our watershed making progress toward this ultimate goal?
In our survey, we found that 9 cities have already taken the first step by calculating current greenhouse gas emissions, at least for their own city operations. In 2010, 8 of these cities took the second step, establishing a climate action plan to actually begin working on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Seattle has an aggressive target of being carbon neutral by the year 2030. Here is the range of targets that some of our other watershed cities are using.
Edmonds is aligning its goals with the Washington state mandate that expects reductions to be at the 1990 level of greenhouse gas emissions by 2020, 25% below 1990 levels by 2035, and 50% below by 2050.
Linwood is using 2005 as the benchmark year, challenging itself to achieve a 5% reduction below 2005 levels by 2012, 60% by 2050.
Kirkland is also using 2005 as a benchmark year, but wants to reduce greenhouse gas emissions 10% below the 2005 levels by 2012 and 80% by 2050.
Both Issaquah and Mercer Island have adopted the King County target of 80% reduction by 2050 based on the benchmark year of 2007.
Bellevue has adopted the National Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement target, which set 1990 as the benchmark year. As of 2010, 1,053 mayors from all 50 states, representing a total population of over 88 million Americans, had taken the same pledge. That's about 1/3 of the total population of the United States. Bellevue plans to be 7% below the 1990 level by 2012.
Just so you know, 1990 as a benchmark year is a much more challenging target than 2005 or 2007, because greenhouse gas emissions were so much lower then. And remember, the city of Seattle is the lighthouse beacon for all of us, because they're not shooting for an 80% reduction by 2050. The goal in Seattle is to be completely carbon neutral by the year 2030. Net zero emissions. How's that gonna happen?
It's the chicken and egg and frying pan situation. Where do we start? Feed the baby chicks? Sit on an egg to keep it warm until hatching? Think about it later once we're in the frying pan? Puget Sound Energy's voluntary green power program provides a way for homeowners and businesses to invest in renewable energy equal to the amount of electricity they use. The additional cost is just over a penny per kilowatt hour. For the average energy-efficient household using 800 kilowatt hours per month, buying into a green power program costs about $10 more per month on their electric bill. Here's a map of the leading green power purchasers among cities in our watershed, at least those served by Puget Sound Energy.
The top city is Bellevue, with 26 commercial customers and 1,787 residential customers, for a combined green power purchase of 24.1 million kilowatt hours.
Second is Kent with 14.7 million green kilowatt hours.
Third is Renton with 10.3 million.
Kirkland has 8.9 million.
Redmond has 6.2 million.
Sixth is Mercer Island at 3.698 million kilowatt hours.
Seventh is Issaquah at 3.694 million kilowatt hours.
Kenmore comes in 8th at 2 million.
Ninth is Bothell at 1.3 million.
10th is Woodinville with 983,000 green kilowatt hours, followed by Medina with 840,000 and Maple Valley with 805,000. These numbers, combined with the rest of Puget Sound Energy's green power customers within our watershed, add up to about 93 million kilowatt hours. What about Seattle? Seattle businesses and homes get their electricity from Seattle City Light, not Puget Sound Energy. Seattle City Light has a long tradition of clean, renewable energy, beginning way back in 1905 with the construction of the first hydroelectric plant up near the headwaters of the Cedar River. 100 years later, in 2005, Seattle City Light became the first utility in the nation to fully offset its carbon emissions and has maintained a net zero status ever since.
Seattle City Light has a list of business customers participating in their green power program called Green Up. Here's the top 10 from that list.
Number 1, University of Washington, 14,956,000 green kilowatt hours. Number 2, Seattle University, 2,541,600. Number 3, Starbucks headquarters, 1,913,600. 4, King County Chinook Building, 1,533,153. Number 5, Jackson Federal Building, 684,800. 6, Puget Consumer Co-op, Natural Markets, 638,311. 7, Rosetta Informatics, 496,000. 8, Methuen Architects, 489,600. 9, Seattle Public Utilities, 460,128. And at number 10, Pagliacci Pizza, 430,000 green kilowatt hours.
A pizza company? These guys must be really committed to being green. What's their phone number? Do they deliver? They probably use electric cars or bikes or something.
The top 25 business customers with Seattle City Light amount to nearly 27 million kilowatt hours of green power purchases each year. The number combined with another 54 million from all of the other Seattle City Light customers, including homes, brings us to about 81 million. 81 million combined with 93 million from all of our other Puget Sound Energy cities, and our grand total is 174 million kilowatt hours of green power for our watershed.
Big numbers? Maybe. If we assume, however, that the average energy-efficient household uses about 800 kilowatt hours per month, or 9,600 kilowatt hours per year, then 174 million kilowatt hours is enough to power about 18,000 homes. Yet there are 1.9 million people in our watershed. Averaging 4 people per household, that's 475,000 households. What percentage is 18,000 homes out of 475,000? We are only about 3.7% green. Very light green. Green-ish.
Most people want to save money and make their homes efficient, but they're not always sure how. In 2010, Puget Sound Energy rolled out the Home Energy Report program, offering residents a snapshot of their home energy use compared with 100 of their neighbors. We're guessing that this strategy creates a nice little dose of peer pressure in the neighborhood.
When my family got our handy report in the mail, we ended up comparing results with our neighbor, and we found that they use almost twice as much energy as my family.
My friend was like, "What are you doing?"
And I'm like, "What are you doing?"
So we started talking.
On January 25, 2010, the Seattle City Council passed the Energy Disclosure Ordinance. This new law requires commercial building owners to track their energy use and make it available, disclose it to prospective tenants. It's a cool strategy because the law doesn't require a building owner to make any actual changes. But once everyone and anyone can see the data and compare buildings, there will be a natural desire to adapt to more energy efficient systems because it will save money. Plus, the market will demand it.
If you are thinking about renting a room for your family in a small apartment building, or several floors of office space in a downtown high-rise for your new business, and you had instant access to compare how energy efficient one building was over another, and you knew that the building with the better energy rating would save you money to live or work there, which building would you choose? Right. Then if you were the owner of the building who never got chosen because your building wasn't as energy efficient, what would you do? I thought so.
In 2010, local architect Brian Geller, a sustainability specialist with ZGF Architects in Seattle, convened development professionals and City of Seattle staff interested in large-scale energy efficiency. Not just one building this time, but a whole district in downtown Seattle.
The Seattle 2030 District Planning Committee is working to create a groundbreaking high-performance district on multiple buildings in downtown Seattle. The 2030 District seeks to prove the business case for sustainability, that high-performance buildings are the most profitable building type in Seattle.
To achieve carbon neutrality, what we're seeing is a trend from individual buildings to whole neighborhoods with multiple buildings. And we are beginning to see whole cities rethink their building codes to support the green building revolution. Or maybe carbon neutrality strategies could be even simpler.
In 2010, the City of Lake Forest Park completed a multi-year study of the economic value of their greatest ecological asset. By maintaining the forest in Lake Forest Park, the city is a national leader in urban forest carbon sequestration.
The urban forest of Lake Forest Park has an estimated 207,000 trees, with a total tree cover of 42.4%. You can easily see the city boundaries from the air by the increased density of its urban forest. The total carbon stored in Lake Forest Park trees as of 2010 is 47,700 tons. This has an economic value of $879,000. Not only do trees hold carbon in their above ground and below ground biomass, but their leaves help remove and process carbon dioxide from the air through photosynthesis. The associated economic value is $33,400 per year.
Trees also affect energy consumption by shading buildings, providing evaporative cooling, and blocking winter winds. Trees in Lake Forest Park are estimated to reduce energy-related costs from residential buildings by about $120,000 annually. Another $2,873 is saved by reducing the amount of carbon released from fossil fuel-based power plants that would be needed to either heat or cool the buildings by mechanical means.
Plant trees.
Sequester carbon.
Build green.
In 2010, the Seattle City Council established carbon neutrality as one of its 16 council priorities.
You should read the other 15. Awesome senior projects.